Okay, so I missed one. I would take the full blame, but you know I am a YouTuber, which makes me immune to responsibility, unless I infringe copyright or other vague things that I'm sure are in the terms of service. Why don't we compromise and say it's entirely your fault, the viewer, and we'll never bring it up again? Agreed? Good. And you know what this means, kiddies? It's time to pull the ugly bastard out for one more job so he can actually retire in peace.
Crushed. Unplayable. The deed is done.
Also, if you're confused by this intro, I kind of am too. It's a follow-up to another video about PS3 RPGs, so go watch that first. It'll be everywhere. Description, the little dingy thing at the top right. If you truly desire it, you will find it, my son. But just like this slick deal from Atlas VPN, who sponsored this video. As an Australian subject to the nanny state, you'll never catch me too far from a VPN, be it to interact with games and the like which have been refused classification, which is, fancy talk for being banned, or to simply access a website that my government doesn't want me to see. Allegedly, a VPN's kind of a necessity down here, and in many other parts of the world too. Luckily for you and me, Atlas VPN are running a Black Friday deal wherein you can sign up for a 3-year plan for only $1.70 a month. And as an added bonus, they chuck in an extra 6 months on top with a 30-day money-back guarantee. You might know what a VPN is and what it can be used for, but if you don't, it's a service that effectively sends your internet traffic through a bunch of secure servers in other countries. This could serve as an extra layer of protection from anyone you don't want seeing said traffic. As the connection's coming from a selected country, it can also be used to bypass region restrictions for services and applications such as video streaming and game buying. If you're real sneaky, might save you a couple more bucks. Black Friday only comes, like once every 4 years or something? It's like a leap year, right? And anyway, if you want the best Atlas VPN deal you'll get this year, come and pry it from my cold, dead description box or pinned comment. Thanks to Atlas VPN for sponsoring this video. Before we hit the meat with a paddle, let's go over some games that were mentioned in the comments of the last video but didn't make the cut. Enchanted Arms was an RPG I saw brought up, but it was released on the 360 as well, so it's technically not trapped on the PS3, but it is certainly trapped in the 7th gen, which is, almost as bleak. I mean, who owned a 360 anyway, am I right, PlayStation gamers? I played it a bit to get some generic footage, and it's weird, I dig it, but it doesn't belong in the original list. Next up was Eternal Sonata, which was a recurring mention. This one had slightly more features on the PS3, but it's also on 360, so it was naturally excluded. I hate the proportions of the characters. They got those crinkly Kingdom Hearts feet and the encephalized Code Lyoko heads. It makes for a strange globular time, but outside of that, it looks far better than I remember. Maybe I should give it a proper revisit, instead of just talking about their feet. Tales of Grace's F seems pretty faithful between the Wii and PS3 versions, at least at face value, though I'd imagine the PS3 port looks significantly better and probably runs like a dream in comparison. It also got localized on the Sony brand Jet engine, so it probably should go in the list, but that'd just be another Tales game to talk shit on. Also, while we're here, I didn't mean to do a piss poor job talking about Xillia in the original video, and a lot of commenters were rightfully upset about how little effort I put in, but think about it like this, right? Anime. A similar case is Rune Factory Tides of Destiny, both on the Wii and PS3, in that it doesn't count for the oddly specific list I made. Again, I played a little bit of this for footage and kept running into the next best waifu, so I had to stop before the good lord discovered my mental adultery. I want to get into heaven, and fucking anime children's just not gonna get me. People also asked about Resonance of Fate, but it was a cross-platform title releasing on 360 and it's now on PC in dazzling 4K. Go check it out. It's a bit of a cracker. Not the white racial slur. Cracker as in it goes hard, it's a pretty good game. It's weird, but it's good. A title also on 360 at the time was one included in my last video, Cross Edge. Apparently it got ported for some reason as Cross Edge Dash, and I guess I blanked on that. Again, you guys can take fault for this. Had I known, I likely would have dropped it from the list, depriving you of Titty Monster Morrigan from the hit series, Cross Edge. And finally, it was brought up that Folklore isn't an RPG, and look, you are 100% correct, but Folklore deserves to be on every PS3 list, which is why it's on this amended one, and it's more of an RPG than half the other games, so, go fuck yourself. I'm just kidding, you're alright, only fuck yourself if you really want to. Now, to the subject of the video, the title we've all been waiting for, the one I actually forgot, as a result of circumstances possibly out of my control. Battle Princess of Arcadias is another Weeby entry, but fared better than the Unmissed titles as the anime shit is a bit more reserved. Story beats are generic but modest and feature a regal duck. The cutouts are relegated to a fraction of the text boxes. Characters actually move, their animations don't need to be implied by ugly stills, and the best part of all is that everything is skippable. Except for the gameplay. Visually, it follows in the footsteps of Vanillaware titles of the time. Your Odin spheres and When did Dragon's Crown come out? Like 2013? Around the same time? You know, they say imitation is the sincerest form of flatulence. While it doesn't match the aforementioned inspirations, it's not to be dismissed so quickly, however. Developed by Apollosoft, a short-lived splinter of Flightplan, the fellas responsible for the Summon Night series, it's about as unconventional as one would expect from such an eternally poisonous pedigree. Because they also developed a game called Eternal Poison. Now, I missed this title because I'm retarded, but a factor that didn't help, and a clear reason as to why you may just be learning it exists, was that it was a PSN exclusive. That's right, even the publisher didn't have enough confidence to print this to a disc. For reference, Magus got a disc release, and this title didn't. There is truly no justice in the world. The music alone belongs on a fucking CD more than Magoose, because it's good, and Magus isn't. It plays like a weird merger between Baby's first belt scroller and Baby's second fighting game, you know, after Smash Bros, and features 3 core modes. One is a simple beat 'em up where you kill enemies, the second is a boss mode where you control a modest army of expendables to deliver a demon unto its creator, while also wailing on it yourself. The third mode is like an army skirmish where you take a group of units that serve under major controllable characters and send them to their deaths on a background plane, while you synergistically dispatch smaller mercenary groups in the foreground. The first of the modes is left to right, all enemies die, very simple stuff, but the second and third modes genuinely go out of their way to be as annoying as possible, because you have to focus on things that aren't mashed square, and it's also where a lot of the soft RPG elements come into play. In boss mode, the larger foe has a hefty shield and a bone to pick with a few of your best and brightest, who get laid out if you don't immediately tell them to go into defense mode. Once the shields are down, you can start packing on damage by switching to attack mode and letting him have it. The boss is never truly open to an assault until his stun gauge is filled. It's a short stun, but it's just enough to 1 or 2 cycle any given foe, if you can time it right. The lose conditions in these 2 modes also include the death of your army units, which adds a bit more weight to actions and demands a sprinkle more attention than hacking things to bits. Skirmish mode works similarly with commands, though the masses are set against the foe's masses in the background and can only be indirectly controlled. The foreground is where you'll generate a bunch of morale, which is a currency that can be used for said commands. A full morale meter in either mode allows a big attack which does huge damage, with the game outright saying that skirmishes are effectively a waiting game until you get your big attack. Sometimes that's true. As I said before, these modes see the creep of soft RPG elements, as each boss and enemy army have levels with implied stats, which can be overpowered by your own, and very easily. Any element of strategy can be removed with numbers, which is great for a mindless chimpoid such as myself. While it's nice that you're offered multiple ways to tackle things, it seems like these strategic elements are trivialized by numbers, particularly in the late game where I felt I had to grind to even stand a chance against the skyrocketing enemy levels. Units during boss stages have no individual stats of their own, but during skirmishes you deploy battalions whose level cap corresponds to that of the primary characters, with whom they share a weapon type. A great deal of effort is spent powering these fellas up, as to do it you need to level the controllable character and then manually pay for each upgrade. You know, with money. Upon completion of any mission type, you're presented a Monster Hunter-esque reward screen with various enemy drops, consumables, or weapons. Weapons can be upgraded in the town with the enemy drops, and consumables are just that. You consume them, like garbage YouTube videos. Hey, how you going? You still paying attention? Oh, you are now. Levels and gear aren't the full extent of character customization, but they certainly make up the bulk. Upon leveling up, new abilities are unlocked, ranging from executable combo finishes to double jumps and even elemental resistances. I'm of 2 minds about locking these features behind a straight uninteresting level up system, when it'd be the perfect opportunity to tack on a skill tree, allowing people to prioritize the abilities they desire. It is nice that you're given benefits for progressing your level, but it also kinda sucks because a lot of the fighting game viability is locked behind some fairly bloated RPG progression. Which I guess is the point, but I don't know, it just feels like a double-edged sword to me. Even with the upgrades, combat is a bit clunky, but each character has their own feel and playstyle. Even different characters brandishing the same weapon types feel completely different. You can take up to 3 characters into any given map and switch between them at any time. Each have a light and a heavy attack, a button for items shared with unit control, and a jump. If you're not a number pig like me, you'll need to rely on the block function, which negates all damage and, as far as I can see, has no limit or breakpoint outside of a few boss attacks. Sometimes enemies like to spam guard, and that sucks because I have to stop pressing square. If you tap a direction while blocking, you'll perform a short dash dodge, but this was always iffy because the hitboxes are pretty generous, particularly for the bigger boys, and more often than not, you'll get caught as the dodge finishes. Not helping this at all is how busy some of the maps get. Even ignoring the clustered characters pulling into the screen to get simultaneously wiped by a giant monster, the foregrounds are so busy and intrusive, it's hard to view a boss's tells, which can, royally fuck you and the units you're required to protect. But when you can see them, the animations are slick and oddly personalized, like there's a girl with a giant buster sword who does a corrective weighty lean forward when you stop moving, as though she's about to topple. Other characters aren't as notable, but you can still see a great deal of effort was put into character animations and giving them all a unique feel. And at the end of the day, isn't life all about copping a feel? Well, that's it for now. I'll see you all in 2 more weeks when I find another RPG I forgot. Thanks for watching.